Welcome back to Hartford. We are now down to just two duelists who will be facing off in the finals of YCS Hartford here at the Convention Center.
Yeah, that's right. We've had a long series, but now here's a showing of our final bracket. We saw Poe take down Justin in a 2-0 victory on the side there just now. And then our main feature match, James taking down Andrew in another 2-0 victory. So now our finalists are Despia branded against Sky Striker.
So two O's in the top four. I think we're going to go with 3 games this time, or it's going to be another 2-0 here.
Ooh,
I'm so many.
There's been a lot, yeah, but the games have been good. Even with that, I'm hoping for a game 3. I'm hoping for a game 3 just so we get like one final match, right? One final thing to be really excited about. But it's going to be interesting seeing both these decks play, right? Because both these decks are built very different than I think you would standardly assume that Despia, Branded, or Sky Striker would play. Yeah.
All right, well, let's take a look right now. Let's head over to the table.
Yep, and this is our finals here. On the left, we will have Poe, all the way from Sydney, Australia. Sky Striker Ace Ring.
Big favorites. Sky Striker deck. And on the right side, we have James from Toronto. His favorite card is Morphing Drug. I love all those old jar cards.
Yeah, the jars are cool. I have a special place in my heart for how much I hate Cyberjar. But neither here nor there. Cool to see that 2 players not from the United States in the finals, right? We have one all the way from Australia and one from Canada. And we're going to see really like the big conversation at the beginning of the weekend was Despia branded or Teddy Sword Soul, right? We saw Despia branded eke it out. It's now in the finals, right? However, there's all these decks that were designed to hard counter those strategies, right? Both Despia branded and Teddy Sword Soul, one of them likely the Sky Striker deck, right? Especially seeing how it's built.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're main decking in dimensional barriers, and you're main decking trap tricks to go get dimensional barriers, you're probably just gunning for those 2 decks completely, and you'll take the loss of points in some of the other matchups if you run into them, and if your Sky Striker deck isn't necessarily good enough to beat them, which Sky Strikers are still really, really good even after all these years.
Yeah, no, definitely. They're still incredible, right? And they've gotten a few tools along the way, too, compared to even when they were, like, quote-unquote full power with, like, triple engage. But the interesting thing for me is, for James, his Despia branded deck looks like it's also geared to beat Despia branded in like Teddy Sword Soul, right? Like it's geared towards those matchups.
Absolutely.
So this is usually when we see that like the rogue is a word I don't want to always use, like the non-targeted strategies dominate, right? It's when these decks get a little bit too targeted at themselves, right, to beat the mirror matches and things like that. That's when these other decks can capitalize on it. So I think just looking at the lists, I have to give a little bit of an edge to Poe, right?
So yeah, and you just have talk about incredibly powerful spell cards, right? So you've got Branded Fusion over on the Despia branded side. Then you have Engage over on the Sky Striker side. And while you have to keep getting more copies of Branded Fusion out of your deck in a variety of different ways, once you get that one Engage in Sky Striker, you know exactly how you're getting it back every turn.
Yeah, I mean, James also just has a ton of extra other powerful spell cards too, right? Like, I've been talking about Frankfurt Patchwork all weekend, incredible card. He also plays copies of Pot of Desires,
yep,
right? And a full main deck suite of Lightning Storm.
Yeah, now that's something we haven't seen a lot of. I've seen people playing around it throughout the day, playing their monsters in defense positioning and like, but we haven't seen the Lightning Storm itself. It made me wonder, are people really playing it? Obviously, the answer is yes. James is here on the finals.
Yeah, I mean, Asala was really talking this card up all weekend. He talked about, is it better? I kept on asking, do you think it's better to disrupt or break boards this format, right? And just looking at the field, especially what like the 10E Sword Soul deck was doing, I was really on the like, it makes sense to disrupt the board, right? Like they were having success with it. And like we even saw, I keep on bringing up Paolo's Libromancer deck, right? Yeah. A deck that's definitely designed to disrupt. You have so many hand effects. That's not the case for James. He's in the finals. He's trying to break boards. And there's a crowd that everyone is hyped to finally see what deck will take it all down here in game 1 of the finals.
Here we go.
And it looks like Poe won the die roll. I assume he's going to start off with Sky Striker Ace, goes into Shizuku.
Set 1, set 2. And goes to the end phase. Front center. taking a look at Rose there and see under what circumstances she might spring out from somewhere.
Yes.
Good on it. Just making sure, right?
Absolutely. You gotta know what everything does. Just keep it in mind.
Especially with Ray, right? Like Ray's the one who just seems to come out of nowhere and then do extra things whenever you don't think she will. So
In the standby phase, Poe's going to activate Trap Trick. Oh, here we go.
yep. And now that they're in files, they're definitely very aware of what each other's playing, right? So he's going to go ahead and banish a dimensional barrier so he can set a copy. Ooh,
That could be painful.
definitely.
Yeah, and he needs to. It's kind of tough because it gives James a chance to try to alter his line of play here, but you have to do it that way if you have Trap Trick as opposed to Dimensional Barrier. If your opponent gets to the main phase, they have the right to do any one thing common to the main phase before you get priority to do anything else. So they could just slam down the Branded Fusion and you'd be stuck.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's also one of those things, too, where James is sort of forced to try to get him to flip it regardless, right? Because he can't just wait. If you give Sky Striker too much time, they're just going to snowball out of control.
So presumably he's going to use the polymerization here.
Yeah, especially with how free Fright for Patchwork is, you don't mind that. You're basically just trading away 0 cards almost for it. But the big thing he doesn't have to worry about, like, even though Poe's had a lot of success with, Dimensional Barrier and Trap Trick to find it, Sky Striker isn't really a deck that OTKs anymore, right? We're past the days where they're Halka 5 Rackexing comboing into, like, an easy OTK. So he still has some time, but it's just like how much sort of like interaction Poe's able to build thanks to that engage, thanks to some other spells, to sort of like not lock down James, but give him a harder time the following turn.
I think you still have to respect the access code OTK. Like, you never know when it's coming.
You could be right. Yeah, now looking at his list too with 3 copies of Effect Veilor and some Ash Blossoms as well.
All right, polymerization is go. So we know there's no Guardian Chimera since none of these cards are on the field. Is this Albaz and probably Edge? No, a Looper. For Despia and Aquarius. So Poe can only activate one more trap here. A spell is fine, though. A special summon was made so Demise of the Land can be activated to grab the field spell out of the deck and activate it. Activate it directly from the deck, rather.
A classic card, right? One that is definitely found popularity and a home again in these Mystic Mind strategies.
So this is interesting. Currently, they are even on monsters. So that's going to be one way to hold it back. Mystic Mind destroys itself.
Yeah, I probably misspoke a little bit about the, not the deck that OTK is now. The more that I look at these situations, between Trap Trick and Demise of the Land being like a one turn, I'll turn you off, then get rid of it. That's probably why Poe's seen so much success, is that exact strategy. Turning off your opponent just for a turn to open up an OTK the following turn. Ooh.
Alright, so Engage is up next.
Also, the interaction Demise of the Land, getting you like 2 spell cards in the graveyard to make your Sky Striker spells that much easier to turn on the second half of, is very cool.
Sky Striker Echo Widow Anchor is the choice there. That's the third spell, so no bonus card yet.
But it does mean he could potentially wreak some havoc here. So we'll see what he chooses to link away his Shizuku into. It's going to be Hayate.
And attacks directly there. Gets in for 15 and activates the effect of Hayate to send a Sky Striker to the graveyard. And that's going to be Ray. Takes over Guardus. It's in for 25 there. Takes a quick look at it. It does have an effect that gives back a card, but that won't apply, if it's sent to the graveyard while it's, while it's on Poe's side of the field. So he activates the Area 0.
Yep, I'm gonna get some extra value out of James' fusion monster there, sending it away, hopefully, but misses off the Area 0.
Gets nothing. So he can't send it off Area 0, but he can still link summon. Extra card dropped onto the table there. So those two can be linked off into Sky Striker Ace of Zeke, and then Zeke can be swapped out for Guard. Guard gets back engage.
Yeah, but now still 3 spells in the graveyard, right? Thanks to the Widow Anchor.
Yep. It looks like he grabbed multi-roll there. Oh, another Widow Anchor. That makes sense. And he got through that turn without using the Dimensional Barrier at all. So he has that really powerful follow-up to whatever James tries to do on his turn.
Yeah, especially putting James to 4,000 already. That means it's going to make it very easy to find the rest of that damage the following turn.
Like, that's in access code range.
Yeah, I mean, and he still has the Widow Anchor, right? He can also potentially search like a Shark Cannon or something at the end of the turn as well to make sure he just always has enough damage. I was going to find multi-roll instead, though.
That's over there. Thinking about a chain. I think I saw an effect failure over there. There it is. He's got all the Starlights, too. You got the Starlight Rose, Starlight Veiler.
Also has all the ultimate aces.
Yep.
Cool deck. Very nice.
Oh, he's got the Ash. Ash for Branded Fusion as well. Still hasn't had to pop that Dimensional Barrier.
It's really just holding on to this.
Activates multi-roll, that activates Reinforcement of the Army. And that's enough.
Impressive set of sequences, I think, from Poe.
Yeah, that was really devastating.
Just like the knowledge of him having Dimensional Barrier 2, ooh, as like the nail in the coffin.
So, like, I don't think that James actually wanted that polymerization to resolve on the first turn. I think he activated it just hoping that the Dimensional Barrier would be flipped, and he could hold on to that Aluber and Albaz and do something different with it instead. But by letting it through, forced him into a suboptimal fusion summon of a monster that wasn't particularly useful and was eventually used against him.
Yeah, I mean, that could be why Poe did that, right? Like, putting him into that position, just saying, like, sure, it's not like I can't deal with that, just a single fusion monster. Really, the cards you're trying to stop is probably Branded Fusion to make sure you don't get all those additional, like, trigger effects in the graveyard, right? And snowball out advantage. Ooh, this is exciting. This is a high-level Yu-Gi-Oh! Drone. Yeah. But the match isn't over. Game 1, still got Game 2. So duels are going to go to their side decks, and we're going to see exactly what tools that they bring in to try to combat each other. It's going to be interesting.
So the great thing about Sky Striker in a format like this, like in this event in particular, where Dimensional Barrier is everywhere, is that you just don't care about it.
Yes.
You're all Link monsters, and you can't call Link.
Yes. I think the one thing that Sky Striker does very well, we were talking about it before too, cards like Vanny's Ruler, Artifact Sight, kind of just ignore them a little bit, right? Like, you have ways to deal with them. You don't necessarily need to access your extra deck during your first turn. Same thing with Dimensional Barrier. The way you're answering all these popular cards in the format, That's fine. You just don't.
You've got one token generator, so maybe they try putting a token collector against you, but that feels like oversighting for a one of that you don't even need.
Definitely. I mean, we saw that in an earlier match, but it was more so like he just took out a Fairy Tale Snow for a token collector because Snow wasn't good in the matchup, so something just send off of a Shooting Riser Dragon. But yeah, it's just Sky Striker's just attacking from a very interesting angle, especially Poe's version, right? With copies like Devise the Land, Mystic Mind too, and the like Metaverse, Trap Trick, Dimensional Barrier, really just trying to shut off his opponent for a turn, just to sort of like get his ground and make sure he has the initiative and opponent's on the back foot, right? He wants to be proactive, he wants his opponent to be reactive.
And it's interesting the way that he used the mind there. Like, he threw it out there when the monsters were 1-1, and you know it's going to self-destruct, and your opponent knows it's going to self-destruct. And the scary thing is, if you're opposed opponent, you both want the same thing. And when you want the same thing as your opponent, it's probably trouble for you.
Yes, especially if your opponent is the one who put us into the position,
Yeah.
right?
All right. And let's go first here. Figuring, many Sky Striker decks like to go second. So I wonder if that's like a specific side deck strategy or just a specific Sky Striker strategy here making him go first.
Yeah, I feel like with 3 copies of Lightning Storm in his main deck, James is probably really comfortable going second.
Right.
Yeah.
Just blowing out all those spell and trap cards at once.
Yeah, especially if he can take advantage of maybe like Poe siding in some going second cards as well. Crowd's getting hyped again as we head into the second duel of our finals here between Poe and James. Canada against Australia.
He starts off with Kagari into Shizuku with face down card, goes to the end phase, and picks up Engage.
A little bit reminiscent of the last game, one less back row, right? We saw Demise Land and Trap Trick set previously. We'll see which one this might be. It could be none of them, in fact. Could just be a Sky Striker card.
Face or Neonated Permanence.
Yeah, easily.
Cost. Metaverse.
It looks like Poe's hand is 2 copies of Afterburner, Engage, and an Ash Blossom. So he has at least 1 point of interaction there with the Ash Blossom, but definitely looking to do more the following turn, right? Maybe tear apart a few monsters and try to get that Engage online ASAP.
So Albion was resolved here. It went to the bottom of the deck. Draw a card.
Here's going to get hit with that Ash Blossom.
Fusion starts the Ash. Does he have? He's got the cross out.
Another really exciting card to see. So, let's say you're James, right?
Yeah.
You have access to cross out in your side deck. Do you keep in things like Mystic Mind?
At least one. At least one.
Yeah, that's powerful. And oh man, that's so good.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's super good. Yep, so the Brandon Fusion is going to resolve. Send down was it Despia Strategy alongside
Alnaz.
a second copy?
Yep.
Oh, and he has the Edge of Chain. Get the cards flowing. Get the cards flowing
just
real quick.
seem to flock together for the successful Despia players.
Yeah. And that's it. The ones who are successful are the ones where they end up drawing it together, right?
Yes.
It's very high power deck, right? Like that's why it's so popular. It does a lot of things with just a few cards if you draw them in in sequence.
New chain activate. Magic chain.
Magic Chain activates here. Grab Patchwork.
Activate.
All right. So we've got all that sorted out now. Mirror Jade is on the field, and a Looper is normal summoned, and a branded spell or trap card.
Looks like he's going to get
Branded
branded lost. Yeah.
It's never a good sign when they can search that out.
Because they have a lot going on already, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this one's good. How many cards are there? 3.
It's almost like foretelling your hope a little bit,
Yes.
right?
Oh, he's got even more cards coming with Allure of Darkness.
And we'll see how much better that alert can get depending on what he banishes as well, right?
I like these versions of the deck that run triple Allure.
Especially when we're talking about like the most powerful hands are the ones that have like the brand infusions with Edge of Change or the Frightful Patchworks together.
Yep.
Makes sense, right? But the fact that they're also going bigger at the same time, a little interesting.
Yeah. Like Patchwork Allure is a nice little combo to start with.
Right.
Well,
Like, for example, let's say you're playing this deck at like 44 cards or something, 46.
Yeah.
Do you just jam 3 Allure?
probably.
Doesn't seem that bad, right?
No.
It's wild to think about.
Yeah, I didn't even think of it that way though. Like when I was building it, to test for this event, I built it with the assumption that I was already playing 3 Allure and that was part of the Allure of the deck.
Oh.
I'll be this time it did, right? Yes. Okay. Cost.
It looks like he's going to chain to his polymerization with
Vanish.
the Mirror Jade.
Nature.
Alright, so we got Masquerade on the field now.
Chain of Apollo, chain to Mirror Vanish. You can activate Rail. Something that's lost, right? Yeah, the last second happened thinking on that for lost, and did I actually play Appreciate it and Dion, right? Lost effect.
A lot of effects going on right now. Just got to keep it all straight.
Yeah, complicated deck. Right, high power, but very complicated. A lot of proper sequencing is necessary. Just make sure you get the maximum value out of all your cards, especially in matchups like this, right, where every card really matters.
Grab some more Courier. Great as both a monster negation and just something to banish for Allure because you get more cards out of it when you do.
Right? James has a grip.
Look at
Yeah,
that.
that is a grip.
Oh,
no, it's a great girl.
Okay. Sometimes you can't tell the difference.
Time for 25. Sure. Time for 2,000. Sure. First damage. Yeah, should we put you at 25?
25 left. So with Masquerade out there, it can activate 4 cards. It's got Super Polymerization. Super Polymerization for game?
Do you try to commit it here? I don't even know. Do you think, like, well, I guess, like, what could he potentially have?
Yeah. I think he's holding a Widow Anchor.
I don't know.
I don't
I
think
mean,
it
does
helps.
that matter? Yeah, like, there's not
No.
enough spells. Yeah, there's not a lot of cards you would have to interact with it, so I think you just jam it if you do. But it's just hard when you feel like you're so much in the driver's seat like that. Normally it's a scary play, but in actuality, like, it's probably just super safe.
Afterburner's number 1.
Thinking here. See a 19 card.
Alright, so maybe...
Red. Targeting.
Yeah, so if it is a monster effect negation, you're probably holding it for Mirror Jade at this point.
Nature.
Uses 1 Masquerade.
1, 2.
With a tragedy to make a second masquerade.
Yep, you're going to be able to trigger both Branded Lost and Tragedy. See what he grabs off. Looks like, was that an Aluber? And an Albion?
Albion and the Luber, I believe. That activates Afterburners number 2.
Yep, that's to take another 600 though. Pay the fine.
Got 13. Okay, response. That's not spirit, just 2.
Just one.
I gotta assume that that last set card is a playable spell, I think, if he's just jamming these after. Well, he has to get through the mirror, the Masquerade anyway, right? So he doesn't take too much damage, but
Stop.
well, maybe not.
Goes for multi-roll next.
Multi-roll activation. Sorry.
Yeah, interesting spot.
There.
These 2 set cards, right? Like, God, I want to know.
Like, that's telling me that there's a super poly involved here. And that James was thinking about using it last turn and didn't.
That's not.
Closed all eyes of the land.
Interesting that he didn't use it.
Okay.
Like, before the Branded Lost came down, that is.
Yeah. Okay, well, at the very least, he's going to get a full powered engage here for a search and then an extra draw thanks to 3 spells in the graveyard. The search is going to find Hornet Drones, which will give him access to a token, opening up his extra deck a little bit. We'll see what card he finds off the top of his deck. That also puts a counter on multi-roll.
Yep. So we got 1 spell activated. Oh, we got those World Championship sleeves too.
Oh yeah, I saw them really terraforming.
Terraform's a good one.
Sorry.
Not sure what we're getting here. Is the area 0 or is it the mine?
He already used the multi-roll. So he can't do things like just like send the area 0.
Yeah, so he gets the mine.
Thinking of the let's get it.
Alright, so it's resolved. James thinks about it for a moment. Mystic Mine is activated. And a temporary reprieve has been bought for the Mirror Jade.
Yeah, but it's something James is definitely prepared for, right? Like he knows that Mystic Mine is going to come into play during these games, so it's not like he has no outs. So now the multi-roll is going to activate. He's going to choose just to set 1, and that single card he's going to set is Afterburner.
After.
Sets a card, passes back to Poe. So we're looking for what? We're looking for Twin Twister here. Lightning Storm, no longer of use, as is plenty of cards on the field.
Okay.
Cosmic Cyclone would also do.
So many cards in hand for James.
Last time. Cosmic 6.
6 cards in hand. Oh, is back up. Passes his turn immediately. And James is up, now with 7 cards in hand. Checks those 2 face downs. Caught a glimpse of a spell card over on the on the left side, the one that was recently set. Looks a little bit like Brandon in red. During the draw phase, activates Schwinn Twister, discarding Patchwork, targeting that one, which is infinite permanence on the Mirror Jade.
That could have just been a 50-50 right there, too. He knows the one on the far left is Afterburners, right? So he's really trying to hit the one that could probably impact his battle phase. Infinite Permanence not going to be that one.
Afterburner's not going to do it either.
It's all up to that. That's the same card that was set to this, the one turn, right?
No, the other one was Demise of the Land.
Oh, yes. This is fresh.
But this one could also be Demise of the Land.
You're not wrong.
Draw one. Thinking here.
Because if you're negating the Mirror Jade, right, that's not going to be a Widow Anchor.
That's true.
You wouldn't be able to use it.
That's very, very true.
Also, I'm taking effects.
Activates the Looper. The Looper is good.
Branded Fusion.
Oh, it looks like we're not going to find out, though, as Poe picks him up for the next game.
We asked for it, and we're going to get it.
Yep.
Yep, game 3 between these duelists. Now's the interesting point, though, where Poe gets to choose whether he wants to go first or second.
Absolutely. And the fact that he was he was made to go first in that second game might make him think a little more. Should I definitely go second here? What am I going to do?
It's interesting, right? It's really interesting, especially looking at side deck, right? The cool thing about Poe's deck for me is that he side decks this suite of Artifact Sanctum alongside Scythe.
Right.
By giving it an additional ooh, if I get to go first, Trap Trick gets even stronger, right?
He's got so many of those just really powerful traps in there. I kind of think he might choose to go first.
It makes sense, but if he can find advantage by choosing to go second, maybe putting James off of whatever game plan he has, I think that's what he's looking for. So, interesting for sure. He has so many power cards, though, as you mentioned, going first, that it'd be hard for me to believe.
Crowd growing restless as they await these last few side deck choices.
I mean, this is one of the first YCSs back, too, right?
Yeah.
If anything, the crowd is excited that they get to see a new champion crowned.
It's only the second one in North America.
Correct?
It's already been 2 in South America.
Yep.
Actually, no, 1 in South America, 1 in
Central
Central
America.
America. Yeah. Guadalajara.
Yes. I don't know. So if you have to put stakes on it, first or second for Poe?
I think he goes first.
You think he goes first?
Goes first.
All right. And with that, do you give advantage to Poe or James?
Guess it depends on what James thinks, but I think with all the trap cards, it just benefits Poe too much just because he gets to set them.
I agree. I completely agree. I think James will be prepared for them in some capacity, but there's only so much preparation he can do for it, right? There's going to be games where they just have it and that's it, or they have 2 of it, and who knows? Poe has enough to have 12 of it, so
Yeah. And I noticed he was pretty conservative with the cards he was setting. Like, he's not like set 3, set 4, even though he could,
Yeah.
in theory, do that. So you're not going to get as much value out of a Lightning Storm if you catch him with it.
He could be aware that James is also playing Lightning Storm, right?
Yes.
It's like, at this point, it's a small tournament, and that's a defining factor of a deck, right? Like, if you get Lightning Storm in game 1, that means something.
Yep.
Obviously.
Oh, the classic striker. All right. That's interesting. That's really giving up an advantage with the way he's built his deck. But
Yeah, I'm going to trust him, right? He's
Yeah.
made it here 14-1.
exactly.
He's definitely put a lot of games into this deck, right? Especially the fact that he had the other duelist from Australia who also made the top 10 with a very similar deck. So I'm excited to see it. This is going to be an interesting one for sure. The crowd is hyped as we're about to finish things off here at YCS Hartford. And the final duel of the tournament, over 1,200 players came to participate, and we are down to 2. One final match will be played, one final game, in fact. James is going to start things off with Albion the Shrouded Dragon. Going to send down the Fallen of Albaz. Where he shovels up, puts Albion on the bottom, and draws a card.
For what? Any resolution?
Doesn't look like there's anything on the resolution. He's going to start things off with Branded Lost.
Perfect. Maybe.
And Aluber. Oh, but the Aluber's going to get hit with Infinite Permanence. He's going to respond with Branded in red.
Looking here.
Yeah, so if you have another Imperm, you can't use it here because you have an Imperm on the field already.
Yep.
That's tough. The branded loss makes this really...
Yeah. Big response for Phillips.
Alright, so we got the Quertus.
Looked like Poe was taking it back a little bit when he was on that specific fusion monster, but
Chain link trigger.
we'll see. Yep, so new chain. Branded Lost is going to activate. He grabbed the Branded Fusion. Things could get out of control real quicker. Interesting to see this hand for Poe. Is that
It's
a
got
Trap Trick and a Sanctum?
Trap Trick, and I thought it was another Imperm, but it could be a Sanctum.
No, I think his hand might be Trap Trick, Imperm, Sanctum, and Ash Blossom
And he throws the Ash Blossom down there.
for the Branded Fusion, so... Interesting. Like, he chooses to keep all of these cards in, even though going
And then we
second.
chose to go second.
Yeah.
And that's what we mentioned just before. You're giving up the advantage of having all those traps if you choose to do it.
Sample.
Drew a spell card. What is it?
Oh,
Hornet
it's Hornet Drones.
Okay.
That is a good spell to draw here. They're going to unlock his extra deck a little bit, probably going into Hayate. Yep, there it is. That's going to let him kick it down a spell once he attacks with it.
Base. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Attacks for 0. Still, it reached the damage step, so Hayate has battled and can send a Sky Strike through the graveyard.
Yep, all it needs to do. See what he chooses to send down. He has some interesting choices to make, right? Doesn't have access to Ray yet. Kind of wants to get the rest of his engine online with something like Engage.
Looking at that engage, really wants to send it. Takes one last look through the deck.
Oh, is he going to choose Ray instead?
Switches to Ray. Switches to Ray.
Maybe he's
Alright.
just thinking to get Shizuku and set up some trap cards and just
Yeah.
search the Engage that way. He's going to Gari first to get back the Hornet Drums.
It's a good thing he had that Ash Blossom, otherwise this would have got completely out of hand.
100%. I was going to load up his graveyard a bit with these Sky Striker aces before going to Shizuku.
He used the kind of there so that the Quertus can't attack next turn.
back up here. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're okay. Yeah.
Bring in phase, Shizuku activates, and now he gets the engage.
Go ahead. Way up.
A solid amount of time. A little under 30 minutes. Plenty to finish this third game. Love to see it.
Yeah, I think that was actually smart the way he played that turn, sending the raid there, knowing that he could get
Engage back the other way, yeah. He doesn't need the search right now, right? And getting Ray online means he'll probably have Ray online for the rest of the game. And if something really goes wrong, he still has Hornet drones.
Yep. Alright, so we're going with an Albion effect. Sending a branded opening to the graveyard. Could be useful later on.
Coming back to almost one.
That's been tragedy.
Declare attack.
There's an attack with tragedy into Shizuku.
No, it was 10 to 0. 10 to 0. 10 to 0. So the attack is. Yeah, I'll take 11. No spells again. 69. Mayface 2.
He's getting a
Touch burn defeat.
yeah, getting into the graveyard to bring back branded fusion.
Poe respects it. Very smart. But here we're going to see one of the first cards yet, Dimensional Barrier. Going to be the first one played from Poe's side. That's bad. That's wasting, your card, your normal summon, your battle phase. That was a lot.
Yep.
I don't think there's really any trick you can do there to get it through unless you have the cross out again and it's sighted in Dimensional Barrier.
Yeah, which is tall ask, right?
And even then, we don't know the rest of his cards, so maybe it wasn't quite necessary. I don't really want to give the Sky Striker player any extra turns, though. That's how these things tend to go sideways.
Poe's deck is designed to give him nothing but extra turns, right? Like, that's really it. Not only extra turns, but extra turns where you're unable to establish anything, right? These aren't like threatening roars. These aren't things that are just like trying to make sure I'm safe for a turn. These are, you're not doing much.
And it's like, no, I am safe, and you're just, you sit there and you watch.
Yes. So we know Poe has a Hornet drones alongside Sky Striker Engage.
How many costs next one? 2 cards in there.
And we have a correction of life points, so it'll be 8,000. James K.
Yep.
He didn't just take some damage from the tragedy attacking it?
It's the first ball good.
Shizuku is swapped out for Kagari.
If I die,
Oh, she gets hit by Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave, the in-graveyard Kagari to negate the effect of the on-field Kagari. Other than that, Kagari is going to be swapped out. For Hayate.
I think to go to one of those campaigns to type.
Where this is going to drop Hayate's attack points down to 0.
I guess I'm going to have a track about if you know what some of the time. Yeah. It's on 69. Yeah.
Yep, life points clarified right there. So James is indeed at 6,900. We apologize for that, but duels were aware, and that's all that matters. So correct game state keeps on moving on. The room got eerily quiet there for a second.
Very,
that was
very quiet.
Oh, creepy.
He picked up his extra deck and looked at it, and everybody just held their breath.
Oh,
And
this
that's
is probably
why.
why. We were talking about it before. This deck very good at, skipping turns. The big thing that this deck used to do a lot was Halka 5-Rex into Axis Code Talker OTKs, usually on the back of like tuners that would recur themselves. But the big thing now with Celine, they don't really need that as long as they have Effect Veiler, right?
Yep.
Like this was a deck that originally played Jet Synchron, and now that Jet Synchron's back, you could potentially do that because it's another way to do this. But thanks to Celine, you're really just sacrificing like an extra deck slot rather than needing to play a card that's not that great like Jet Synchron in your main deck.
And now we've got an Axis Code Talker. It's going to pump up to 5,300. It's got all sorts of attributes in his graveyard to banish for it.
Yeah, we saw him cycle through all of those in the beginning. The Shizuku into the Hayate into the Kaina into the Kagari into the Shizuku.
All right, so he starts with Wind to target the Aquarius.
Yeah, this is a commanding position. Commanding. I think things are.
Where does he get the extra damage from?
Does he need it if he has something like Sanctum set?
Not if it's like exactly Sanctum, I suppose, because then you could just summon out.
Or like a trap trick or anything?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just saying, like, even if he doesn't beat him this turn, if he has another one of those cards that just lets him buy another turn,
Then Axis Code can clean up.
yeah.
All right, so Aquarius has been destroyed. That's going to go ahead and give James a card back. He takes a look at Fallen Valdez there. You've seen him in the intro. That's Axis Code Talker, all right. One of the most influential finisher monsters in the game. It was the successor to the Boral line.
Exactly, though, right? There was a point where it was just these Link 4s were sort of format defining, right? Whether it be Access Code Talker, Appaloosa was another one, Boral Monsters.
Little scary here.
I think little might be an
A
understatement.
little scary.
Big scary. Oh, it's Infinite Permanence is the set card.
Yeah.
Interesting, also good to be in the same column as Branded Lost.
Yeah. So the trick here is that Fallen Valdez wants to try and absorb Axis Code Talker as a fusion material. So the impermanence is key here to stop that from happening. Poe finishes off the rest of the card on James's field and just activates the Hornet Drone. So he can simply link summon another monster.
Yeah, we knew he had that the whole time, right? So this is the easy way to get the additional damage.
Now he already summoned Kagari this turn, though. So it's got to be Shizuku, and I think he's going to be 100 short. It takes 53.
17? 16.
And 15.
So 100 theory again.
Yep. Oh, he had already summoned Kagari this turn, so he could bring her out with the attack boost for the win, for the finish. But this is the stuff dreams are made of, right? If you're James, if you can come back
points, yes.
from 100 life points in the final game of the YCS, that's huge.
This is also, I don't think I've touched on it yet. I don't know if you have, but James is also someone who's been in a YCS finals before, right? He has come this close before.
He has.
So this means a lot to him right now. 2 sets for Poe.
There's got to be something there.
Right?
It
Makes so much sense, too, that you would hold back something like a Trap Trick or a Sanctum if he already had the Dimensional Barrier as well, right? Not trying to commit both in the same turn.
I think he does have a trap trick. I could have sworn I saw it in his opening hand. I do think one of those is trap trick.
I think it's both Trap Trick and Sanctum.
Both?
I think it's both. I do.
Okay.
Perhaps Widow anchored at the end phase.
That's a good one to grab when your opponent's at 100.
Yep. Now, I can't use it quite yet. Still has a monster in the main monster zone.
Right. But I mean, James needs to clear these, right? Because just having the ace means Hayate could be there. And there's the Trap Trick.
Thinking here.
James is thinking, does that mean
It's
he has...
tough. It's got to be branded in red, right?
Can you do anything with a super polymerization?
With dark and water, I don't
Not
think
quite,
so.
right? Yeah. It has to be branded in red. But even then, how much does that do? Right, he still has an access
Oh,
to
yeah.
lock her up.
You have to get rid of access code talk somehow.
Feel free and offer.
Like, I guess you have to try to get to Mirror Jade here, and it is branded in red.
Okay.
Picks up Albaz.
So,
You can't blame Mirror Jade for this particular. So he grabs the Rebellion, vanishes from the dimensional barrier. So he drew a dimensional barrier, had a trap trick, still had a dimensional barrier left in the deck to bring out another dimensional barrier.
So also, Dimensional Barrier also just thinks to on-field monsters as well, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So he declares fusion monsters here, and that's going to negate the effect of Rebellion. So he banished the Albaz and the Mercurier as materials for Rebellion there. That will get him another card off of Mercurier, which will be Albion.
Which is basically any other card, right?
Yep. Sending Fallen Albaz to the graveyard.
Rough when the card you search is, I can't grab any of these because none of them will do anything, so I have to just try again.
Yep.
And it's the last card in hand for James. You can see it in his face. You
Yeah.
can see it.
And
that's it.
Wow.
And Poe takes it. Poe Jiang.
That's an incredible game.
Yeah, that was an incredible series.
That's good.
Yeah, that was. Ooh, that was good to watch. That was nice. And there we have it.
The classic Sky Strikers takes it 2-1 over branded Despia. It's nice to see Ray back.
Yeah, she's back.
Back at the
in action.
top.
Yep. I mean, really on the back of a lot of these powerful trap cards as well, right? Capitalizing on format trends, doing things with Dimensional Barrier, Artifact Sanctum,
That's
buying time with... Yeah, it's,
You have to learn to work together with spells and traps.
that is true. We're going to toss to a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.